let's talk a little bit more about where you're going into the kennels and working with the dogs, okay? So you're gonna see various types of signage on the kennels. There will be some basic information about the dog's name, its breed, but there will also be things that are informative to you as a volunteer and to the potential adopters. And they will be things like behavior waiver or some sort of behavior information, which can include things like not good with cats, not good with kids, needs a lot of exercise, working on jumping, things like that. And that's being upfront with the potential adopters so they realize what they're signing up for. Because some people want the perfect dog, right? And they're just not going to be happy otherwise. Other people are willing to take a dog and know that they need to work with it. There will also be medical waivers for some dogs. I had fostered a dog who was an 8-week-old puppy and had been brought in because a Good Samaritan had seen it get hit by a car. And he's fine now, he's doing great. But it was part of his medical waiver that the potential or the then imminent adopter knew, well, watch for this in the future. It seems to be completely healed on x-rays, but just be aware of this. And I think that's really good that Charleston Animal Society isn't just throwing animals out there, just trying to get them adopted and sweeping stuff under the rug, because they don't want the dogs to be brought back. They want people to be in the best knowledge of what they're getting. So heartworm is a situation all on its own. You guys, probably most people are familiar with heartworm and that dogs and cats need monthly treatment. And what those treatments do, the monthly treatment is basically a really low dose poison, right? So it poisons the blood just enough to kill little things like heartworms, but not enough to kill the dog itself. If a dog does have heartworms, then they have to go through special treatment where the worms are being killed off, okay? In a more aggressive type way. And what that leads to is dead worms in the bloodstream. And so when dogs are on heartworm treatment, you have to keep them extremely sedate and calm and not raise their heart rate or their energy level. Because here's what happens if you do, then these worms start collecting and clogging up their lungs, and that can be fatal. And I tell you this because you'll see signs that say heartworm, they'll say leash walk me only, even better if you'll just sit in the kennel with me. You can take those dogs out on a leash, but even that doesn't mean letting them jump when they're on a leash. It means if you have them on a leash and there's a dog in the kennel next to you that's running back and forth and your dog is starting to get excited and agitated, then you need to bring the dog in. So it's not just having the dog on the leash, it's about the activity level. And I mentioned the thing about how it can clog up their lungs and can kill them because it's sort of a situation like the DHEC one where you're gonna see this dog and you're gonna see for 2 months, it's written down that for 2 months it's not allowed to have any exercise. And the dog's gonna be pleading with you to go run around outside. And you're gonna be tempted, like we all are, to say, just for 1 minute, throw the ball, go have fun. That could kill the dog. So you gotta think about the bigger picture in these situations. What's good for the dog for 1 minute could be fatal for the dog later. So just don't fall into that trap. We're all big-hearted, but you just have to think about the bigger implications there, okay? So leash at all times, keeping their physical energy low. Pay attention to unintentional excitement, bless you, which would be like the dog running next to them, right? So be aware of the entire situation. And in general, if you notice something going on with the dog, some sort of physical abnormality or potential ailment, notify a staff member immediately. So if the dog's having a lot of diarrhea out there, if the dog seems to be limping or holding up one leg or sensitive to a part of its hip, anything like that, go ahead and let the staff know if you don't already see it on their paperwork, because as volunteers, we can be really great at being the eyes and ears because we're having longer interaction time than the staff is a lot of times with these dogs. So things that might not show up in a minute might show up in 20 minutes when you're out with the dog out there. One more note about heartworm. With a heartworm dog, they get the injections back here, so you want to be sensitive to just don't mess with their backside at all, including petting. So a heartworm dog, I'd want to pet like this. I wouldn't want to be doing the come on, get your butt scratches going on there, because they're going to be very tender back there, right? Now we're talking about, okay, you're in there, now you're going to go in and get the dog to take the dog out. It's one person, or I guess you could have more than one person, but it's just one dog with a person at a time. You're not going to be taking 2 dogs out. You and another volunteer aren't going to be in the same run, letting your dogs play together. That's taken care of in play groups. They do play groups with the dogs on the adoption floor every morning from now, 10 till noon. so that they get them nice and worn out before we open up at noon for people to come in, and then they move to doing play groups with the dogs in the back. So they're getting some play time in the morning and some dog-to-dog time. Your volunteer hours are about helping them with human interaction, okay? So note weather conditions, and you're like, well, that's obvious. I did that before I came in, but it means make sure you've got your coat or your hat or whatever you're gonna need for outside when you go to get the dog, because you don't want to get the dog out there and be like, I needed my baseball cap to keep the sun out of my eyes, or what. Then you've got to take the dog back, so be prepared in advance. There's a dog walking chart. I'll show you guys. It's normally sitting on one of the food bins or a trash can, and it indicates each of the dog's names and their kennel number, and it has various time slots. And so you'll write down when you took the dog out. Don't just put a check mark, put the actual time in, so 1 p.m. or whatever. And I would do the time that you bring the dog back, not the time that you took the dog out. And that helps everyone keep track of which dogs have been out most recently and which ones most need to go out. Note the kennel card, so looking for the medical waivers or the heartworm alert, like I told you before. Assess the dog's behavior. So you want to do a little bit of a read before you go in. You don't want to just go slamming right in there like, yo, I'm here to take you out. But you also don't want to be sitting here analyzing to get a full PhD on the dog, because you're standing there, the dog knows why you're standing there with the leash, and so they're going to get more and more excited and agitated, waiting for you to open the dang door. Come on, let's go, right? So do your read and then get going. Don't linger outside the kennel. Okay. We have a whole slide about this because people get themselves accidentally locked in the kennels. I will show you this when we do the tour. Here's what you need to remember. The latch is always on the side you are on. May the latch be with you. Okay, like the force of it, may the latch be with you. And it's because this is what I'm talking about with the latch. And there, you can hook it here or you can hook it here. This is inside the kennel, this is outside the kennel. So you always want to be putting the latch down where you are. You'd be surprised how many people get in there. And you can get out. It's not like you're going to be like Alcatraz yelling, come on, help me. But you're going to feel like an idiot trying to get your hand through the little chain link and get it just the right way to do it. We'll demonstrate this when we go in there. But latch is with you. Latch stays on your side. So going into the kennel. This is an example of where things might have been done differently somewhere else that you volunteered. Some places advocate for opening the doors out so that the dog sees a way out and then they venture into it. At Charleston Animal Society, they like to open the kennels in to decrease the percentage of escapage. Okay, so you're going to open into the kennel. Latch the door on the inside. You've gone in. Now the latch is in here with you. No sitting in the kennel with hyper dogs. If it's a heartworm dog or a dog that just wants to be loved on, absolutely. But you don't want to be sitting in there and just getting jumped on over and over and over again. You're not really training the dog anything with that. You're just getting beat up. Never force a dog to come out of the kennel. So some of them might need some coaxing, stay at the side, lure them out maybe with a treat, excited, toys, whatever, but don't be dragging a dog out. That's a negative experience for them, and then they're going to be even less likely to want to go out with the next person because they're going to think the next person's going to be pulling on them. It may be more effective to spend time in the kennel with the dog. Again, exercise is a key part of what you guys are providing to the dogs, but it's also the human interaction. That's as important. So sitting in there with them could be as valuable as having them run around and play ball.